welcome to our dev stream. I actually managed to do 2 consecutive weeks here. We did one last Sunday at 5:30, and we're starting here slightly late here at 5:43. Um, Joel OK314, is this game footage of Symphony of War 2? Yes, it is. Although I mean, it's like barely anything. We're basically, it's just mapping, and it's just very, very rough right now. But we finally did manage to overhaul the first very important step of the transition from a smaller resolution to the larger 1280 by 720p resolution, which the game is going to be in. We did manage to get far enough in one step, which is like the tiles of the tactical maps that we're looking at. So you probably can't see it super well. You really have, like right now, the difference in just the clarity and quality of the tiles. But they're 48 by 48 now. In the first game, they were 32 by 32, so they were a little bit more pixelated. I still think they looked fine, but so you could, if you look at just kind of the doodads, like I don't have a cursor to put on the map yet, but yeah. So does appear to be a simulated battle map of Symphony of War 2. Like, I'll tell more orange towns and the smooth hills. Yeah. So on the top left there is I wonder if I actually do have a... Oh, I do have a cursor. Wonderful. All right, so yeah, this is kind of... We did have this. This is the same as the townscape in the first game. It's just got a little bit less garish colors. In the first game, you had kind of like a red, green, blue sort of, almost like there was no homeowners associations in the first game, but now there are, because it's all uniform now of just a bunch of browns and oranges. I kind of like it a little bit more muted, but this is like a townscape. It's basically a rough terrain. It's ambush terrain, just like in the first game. Were there waterfalls? Yeah, there were waterfall tiles. Let me go back a bit. Joe Lock. Okay. Can you guys hear the fire truck siren? Anyway, yeah. Hey, finally we have D. Valroth. There you are. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we had waterfalls in the first game, but with smaller tiles, maybe it just wasn't as noticeable. But this is not actually how the water is going to look. As you can tell, maybe you can tell, there's only 3 animation frames, and so I think it looks a little dated. What we want to do, no promises, of course, until it actually gets done, but what we want to do is actually like fully animated 30 FPS, maybe even 60 FPS water. So you would basically take everything you see, pull the water out, just replace it entirely with would look a lot like this, except it would be a lot more animation frames, just this nice smooth watery animation. So that's a little bit more of a long-term work in progress. But and the waterfalls would be the same thing, just be like this constant whoosh. And then I would put kind of the white water splashing effect on the base of the waterfalls here, and then kind of similar the rushing effect on the top here. So, yeah. Hope things go well for ya, man. Thank you. I hope so, too. That's the first time you've said anything but meow. Valkyria says, is SOW2 in VX Ace? Yeah. For now, yes. Of course, the long-term goal is to be on a different engine, but for now, actually, this like Frankenstein version of VX Ace that's been completely replaced basically serves our purposes for now. Yeah, it's plenty able to do what we need it to do, and people very much underestimate RPG Maker. RPG Maker is, in some ways, an absolute banger of a program. It's really, really good. Just in terms of being able to get work done. It's very good at organizing. Nobody talks about this. Like, it's a built-in organizer. Like, if you have like a game design a game design document, which we do, we have tons of those. But a lot of that stuff can just be done with the in-app tools of RPG Maker. So hats off to those devs. They really figured out, there's some things that are super wonky, like you can't put it on the Nintendo Switch, which sucks. That's the biggest problem, or Xbox. But, these developers had a really good handle on the user experience and making a good, just a workflow. And I don't think it only is an amateur program. Obviously a lot of, not just us, but other developers have shown what can be done with it. So Carl Max says, isn't this the map of the Fitch family farm? Yeah, so kind of, because that is Melmond in the top left. Of course, those are the castle icons from the first game. We're probably going to have different sets of objective graphics, because these are based on 32 by 32 tiles. So if you were to go up here, this is actually, this itself is like 96 by 96, so it doesn't fit very well into the tile scheme that we've got here. I mean, it looks okay. I actually don't think it looks that bad. It's just these are from the first game and they're currently placeholders. The ranch here looks actually perfect. It fits perfectly into the size of the tiles, I think. The mine kind of does too. The mine to me looks a little small. Like I feel like it should be like there should be a big rock behind it rather than, it kind of looks like a little signpost right now, like it's one of those old west towns. And you just have like the it's not actually a building, it's just a front, right? So yeah, but further on your point, Karl Max, is that that is Melmond up here, and so canon-wise, the Fitch family farm would be outside of Melmond. I would probably say more along the western side of here, where the old Barnabas family ranch is. But yeah, maybe that's Barnabas's like rival on the other side of the river. But since the geography has been retconned, we see a different version of Melmond here. So, but this is indeed Barnabas's hometown. I'm getting a bit of Actrazer and a bit of Final Fantasy IV. Actrazer, yeah. You mean like the way that the houses look, kinda? I love that game. That's an awesome game. It's actually kind of replayable to this day, although the action is kind of clunky, but I really like it. And Final Fantasy IV, actually, yeah, I used a lot of the color balance. I think the color balance right now is like right where I want it to be. There's some details in there that are still rough, and a lot of unfinished like things. But Final Fantasy IV has a really nice color balance, in my opinion. Let's look around a little bit. It's not a very big map. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Are you ambitious enough to make it look like Prince of Egypt water? The end. Prince of Egypt water. Well, let me look that up. Prince of Egypt. Game. Where? Prince of Egypt. What is it then? The Engine of Theseus. Yes, that is. Yeah, it's Ship of Theseus game engine version. Very much so. Prince of Egypt movie. Oh. Ooh, that's some pretty good water. Probably not going to look that good. So, yeah, it looks great. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, Valkyrie says also never used VX Ace, but love MZ. Yeah, MZ is the more modern version. A Curse of Antfire, and for going back, I like the house recolor, especially since they're not meant to be every house. Every house bears color. MD Yomi says 7 out of 10. Too much water. IGN. Yeah, it would be like indie game of the year, 7 out of 10, or burn it with fire, 7 out of 10, right? um, Although I think that just applies to like AAA. I don't think that. I think they're pretty fair when it comes to indie game stuff. Jolog says, "How did you come up with the idea of a squad-based auto battling system? I love the gameplay concept and spent a bunch of time experimenting with different compositions." It was a combination of just like what game are we going to make next, and I would like to consider one of the things that I'm good at is kind of putting together patterns and trying to predict the future, and kind of listening for the music. What direction is the music is going? And way back in like 2014, 2015, I think I was feeling like, through a conflagration of factors like aging gamers, changing society, people getting more busy and shorter attention spans. I think that it would be much harder to stand out as a JRPG where there's a lot of active. For example, I think that like an MMORPG in today's gamer market, if you're comparing it to the gamer market of the early 2000s when WoW came out, would have a very hard time getting any traction. It's just too much work, man. And like, but it's not about the amount of work, I guess, if you want to call it work. It's about like the perception, because in Symphony of War 1, like it's very compartmentalized. You have your preparation phase, then your execution phase, and in the execution phase, you don't control the battles, which to me is like a godsend. I just want to like set it and forget it, and that was one of the factors that kind of brought the inspiration. Was like, man, I wish I could just like still have the RPG dopamine and have like the ogre battle stuff, but then just have it be an auto battler. So that's kind of how it came about. Just kind of trying to put my finger to the wind based on that, but that's about half of the other half. Of it was just like what game I want to make, right? What do we want to make? Because you're going to be doing this drudgery for years. For instance, I've been doing just like data entry, nauseating data entry. Like I brought a laptop and a coffee gift card and sat in a local coffee shop for like 12 hours yesterday. And just did data entry because it's just like most of it's so unsexy, the work, right? Gold mine, mayhaps. Yeah, that's an iron mine. This one right here. This is like the second chapter in the game. We're actually going to kind of extend the tutorial period in this game where each of the beginning chapters is really short and really focused on one important gameplay aspect. So I want to keep the press X to blah, 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 blah type tutorials to a minimum. I want to just have like present a small challenge where you're learning how to do this mechanic. You're revisiting some mechanics from the first game, and then we'll do some new mechanics that were coming in from the second game. I want to make those part of early missions that are short. And so, this very small map has like maybe like 5 enemy squads in it, 1 mine in it, 1 little town. There's this hill that's going to be a high ground thing. Put your archer here to shoot the guy over here because you get more range. Very simple. And then there will be over here, there might be like a enemy cavalry squad that teaches you the charge mechanic, right? So, first time chat from Apocalyptic 2513. Love the game. Thank you. I do too. Thank you for being here. We love our players. Give us a follow. Hang out on our Discord. I just got here, was talking about Symphony of War. KB49 says, so after this game is finished, what kind of game do you guys want to build? Looking forward to what you may build in the future after this game. Good question. I think that the Symphony of War series deserves to have a lot of iteration within it. It would be a shame to just go away from it. But sometimes I do get not bored, but I want to like branch out. That's why the geography is different, and that's why for the next game the geography and probably also like the world building will be maybe completely redone. It's like, yeah, it's more just like wanting to make something new, because it's so many, like it's so long between these, when these games can actually get done. If you think about like a human lifespan, 4 years, 3 years, 6 years, whatever, 2 years, that's a significant amount of time to do a project within the human lifespan, when your working life is only 40 years, from 20 to 60 or whatever, or 20 to 70. It's like 10% of your working life was making Symphony of War 1, right? More than that, 15% maybe. So you got to kind of be picky and choosy with how you choose to use your time. And as I slowly make my way into middle age here, and I'm still busy with child rearing and all that stuff, I do have to be very selective about how my very, very slowly dwindling energy reserves get used. Precious time and energy, right? So they say when you're young you have all the time and energy but no money, right? And then when you're middle-aged you still have most of your energy and you have money, but then you don't have any time, right? But then when you're old, you have your time back again, you have a lot of money, but no energy. So when is the period of time when you have all three? Never, I guess, right? So, okay. But yeah, to answer your question, to actually answer your question, instead of rambling on like I have early onset dementia, there's two things that we've already kind of talked about. Is the conquest mode, where we have like, it's not a 4X, but like a grand strategy style of Symphony of War, which I think would be awesome, by the way. I think, a lot of those games don't get very much traction, but this is kind of the same feeling I have about, that I had about Symphony of War 1 back in the day, is like, this is going to be really good. People are going to want something like this, as gamers age and attention spans get smaller. I feel very strongly that it would go well. And then the other one is the futuristic, like, mecha game scenario, right? Where we have an engine that's tailor-made to set something up like that. And for that one, boy, do I have so many ideas. But, ideas are a dime a dozen. But, yeah. And also, it kind of depends on, like, how this game performs and what people want, right? Do people want more story content? Do they want more game modes? Do they want, like, skins? Like, a lot of that is just like, we know what we want to do, but then if we have a lot of players who are saying we want this and this and this, or we think it would be cool, then yeah, we'll absolutely try and serve our customers, right? So I'm getting behind on chat here. Hi, says McCall Setip. Hello. Curse of Amphire. I worded that weirdly. I meant more so the objectives bear colors, but houses are no longer scattershot of nations. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. In that regard, like, if you go to a different part of the world, that I think that they will be colored differently, or maybe they will look different. But yeah, this is the standard temperate climate area that we're looking at here. McCall Satip says, one of my favorite features of Symphony of War was the organized section among many. I hope it'll get even better. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a huge, huge focus. We have the graphics overhaul, and then we have basically the GUI. There's the GUI part of, like, having it be user-friendly, and then there's the things that you could do in the organized session. We are very, very excited for the lessons that we've learned from this first game, and then applying them to how we're going to design the GUI and the organized army section in this game. For example, we are being really careful about terminology being consistent and having the three different dimensions of army management: army, your whole faction, army, squad, unit, where certain aspects of customization are exclusive to army, exclusive to squad, exclusive to unit. Some things do cross over by virtue of being synergy, but we want to remove any of the, I guess, unnecessary mysticism of the first game, where like, oh, if it's a leader trait, if it's a unit trait, or does it do this or that? We're like keeping it very consistent and organized. in that respect, right? And then also we are adding basically 2 new metas besides just like land armies. We're of course I've talked about the naval meta. We're doing ships, and I know that ships suck in like most games, except for maybe the games that are supposed to be about ships. But and like you wouldn't actually deal with ships in this map. Well, first of all, it's an early map, and you won't actually do ships until like maybe chapter 10 or so in the story, and you've had a lot of opportunity to get the early characters, the early tutorial stuff out of the way, and then we're going to go to ships, right? So completely new thing. There's no navigable water in this. This is all, and you'll be able to tell because there'll be like a beach coastline instead of a rocky coastline like this. These are all internal lakes and rivers, so there's no ships happening in this map. If there is ships happening, it's going to be a more watery map, of course, with maybe some islands, or it'll be a larger map with like a bay, and then half the map is water and the other half is land, and then you'd have ship to ground, ground to ship combat, right? So there's that, and then the other thing. Okay, listen up. This is another new meta, and this is the first time I've ever said anything about it. We are going to do castle sieges. And I don't know how, just don't quote me on anything, but we looked at boss fights in Fire Emblem and in Symphony of War 1, and whatever, they're kind of just like a slightly stronger squad, and then you take over the gate. What we want to do is just, I can't talk about it too much. We're just going to make castle sieges way cooler. Like, it's going to be a whole meta where like you can customize the castle, stuff like that, and then like there's a gate, and then there's towers and stuff. It's cool. But we want to do something like that. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface on like how to implement that, but that's another meta that we want to add. So, in this organized session, you're going to be like not only doing what you do in the first game, but in a better, more user-friendly way. But you're also going to be dealing possibly with like army level tech, squad level traits and artifacts, or squad level artifacts, right? Squad traits, and then unit traits, and then unit level stats and class changes, and then you'll have your ship stuff, right? And then you'll have, like, if you start the chapter in a castle, you'll have your castle stuff too, right? So I dare say you'll spend a lot more time, but it's time well spent in the organized section in this game, because there's just so much that you can just dink around with. I'm really looking forward to it. And similar vein in the first game of set it and forget it equals fun. We are not in the business of like having you have to pay tons of attention, right? That's actually very antithetical to the Symphony of War game design. We want you to like be able to creatively just kind of chill out and take your time and think about it really hard, and then for the most part, the chapters almost kind of play themselves. I mean, unless you're doing really advanced maneuvers and tricks and stuff. But that's the way we want it. That's what we want, right? It's fun. It's not stressful, right? So anyway, wow, what a tangent. You want to play more games like Symphony of War, but you'll have to wait for Symphony of War 2. Well, probably. Oh, yeah, well, look at Warcraft Goldmine. Oh, yeah, with the big rock behind it. Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing, like to have it actually kind of maybe blend in with the mountains behind it better. Yeah, because right now it just looks like it's kind of by itself. Let's see. Did the read say there will be more than 9 slots in squads? Okay, so Joe Locke says, did I read somewhere that it will be more than 9 slots in squads? We're pretty much going with no. We're still going to have 9 slots, but we're going to do things like one thing we're thinking about doing is for certain classes or certain class archetypes, allowing you at the extreme high ends of leadership capacity to double up on a single tile. No promises. Again, this is just kind of pie in the sky thinking, but that would be like if you had 9 infantry and you wanted to have 10 infantry, and so now you just slam another one right in that tile. And I think the trade-off would be that maybe that is only available to tier 3 classes. And if you wanted to go to a tier 4 class, then that would not be able to double up. So you could, if you're tier 3 and you want to upgrade, you can either double up or you can go to tier 4. That might be the trade-off, right? So, but again, that's very kind of distant. Be born rich and you'll have all three. Yeah, that's true. If you're born rich, then you have time, energy, and money, of course. MD Yome says, indeed. Symphony of War 1, Symphony of War 2, Symphony of War Remastered, Symphony of War 3, Vengeance, Symphony of War Apocalypse, and the last one is Symphony of War 5, Veilguard. I think we're not going to do Veilguard. Right? So, we want more waifu, more Beatrix, thanks. Do not worry about waifus. You're getting all the waifus in the world in this next game. More than in the first game. Not and you can tell me till you're blue in the face that they sell. It's just because that's who I am. I put waifus in my games. Joel Ox says, I'm a hardcore campaign player, more campaigns or mod support to allow player created campaigns. Yeah, short of mod support, which we would love to have, more campaigns. Yeah, sure. That can be done. That takes a long time, and it's the most expensive thing to do, I think, from a budget standpoint. But yeah, if that's what people want. Curse of Antfire with controllers. Cursor be able to just move by grid rather than current unit on the squad plate. That is, a quality of life thing. Whereas, you're talking like, isn't that the way it already is? I thought we changed that a while ago. But yeah, that would be better if it moved on the grid. First time chat from Rebel V Elite. Interesting idea. Thank you. Give us a follow. Cool. Castle sieges. Ooh, there will be hybrid maps. We will be able to use ships to provide, say, artillery support. Yes, Tobo. T0BB0H says, will you be able to use your ships to provide ship-to-ground support? Absolutely, yes. If you want to soften up some fixed defenses, as long as your ships are in range of those, then yes, you should be able to use your ships to support a landing operation or support a siege operation or whatever's going on. Of course, you'll be able to fire back if you've got ranged, units on land, or if you have, perhaps we'll add an objective called like an anti-ship battery that will be able to be placed on coastal areas. You can shoot back at ships. So, castle sieges sounds epic. I hope it goes well. Oh yeah, absolutely. Rebel V Elite says mass cannons is already my meta for Symphony of War 1. Yeah, it's pretty cool. KB49 says being able to even customize a castle would be epic. Absolutely. Can I take down the 7 ringed city with just T1 cavalry if they exist? 7 ringed city? What's a 7 ringed city? But yeah, we actually do have a T1 cavalry class in the game now. It's called the Horseman, and it's just a basic heavy. It's basically if you take the Cavalier, the Tier 2 Cavalier from the first game, and kind of take away some of its strength, and it just becomes very basic heavy cavalry. Basically, like if you put a footman on a horse, that's basically what it is. It'll still be able to do the charge mechanic, is the difference, right? So. Mikal Setip says, you talked about UI. My wife is a UI researcher, and listening to her work, I can tell you we often take good UI for granted. Yes, that's true. And sometimes it's hard to remember when it is a good UI, and it's hard to learn from that experience. I agree. Great UI actually has a good thought behind it. Really looking forward to the changes you make. Yes. Yes, yes, says Jolok. Lurkermeyer says, a siege mechanic would have been awesome in the Stormbook chapter of Symphony of War. Yeah, of course. Very excited to see how it does. Ye old nerdcast the Symphony of War 2. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Yeah, for everyone here, hope you stay on our Discord. Hope you follow our Twitch. I might switch to YouTube. I'm not sure. But we're doing Twitch for now. By the way, I'm not wrapping up. I'm just reminding. Stay on our Discord. There's in the announcement, I put a Twitch ping roll so they don't have to keep pinging everybody. I want to just have a Twitch ping roll there in Discord. But yeah, that's where the biggest updates are going to be, is in our Discord. But also on Steam and other places, but probably mostly Discord. Okay, interesting. Up to tier 3, only tier 3. Mikal, you know, I never make fan art. I will probably make one soon. Yeah, we had a fan art contest, by the way. If you go to our Discord, there's the I'm actually gonna link it. Fan art contest. Does that work? Yeah, there's the fan art contest. You can see who's still around among the people that posted art from so long ago. That was almost 2 years ago. We did a fan art contest for the first game. And boy, that was awesome. That was like the best. I loved that event. That was awesome. Just all these really creative ideas that people came up with, and looking back, wow, love it. Lots of Diana and Beatrix, obviously. So, here's the one this was my submission. Oh man. So basically, I filtered out like 15 top contestants, and after that, I devoted myself to just a voter, and then there were like maybe, I can't remember, like I think the top entry had like 150 votes. I can't remember, but this one is holy moly, really good. But it actually got second place. In voting wise, but it was actually in first place for a while. The game box art won first place, but that one is really good. Yeah, mine is the best one, the stick figure art. Yeah, I really want there to be lots of fan art of the second game, because boy, is that let me tell you, there is a lot of fan art potential. Holy moly. When do you estimate Symphony of War 2 to be released? You know, I would probably not count on it being any earlier than 2016 or 2026. Sorry, but hopefully not much later than that. It'd be probably 26 and 27, or around there. So it's going to be a bit, but good things take time, right? Well, if you think about it, we're only a month and a half away from 25. So, you know, time goes by pretty quick. Joe Locke says, not exactly a Symphony of War 2 question, but do tiers change the stat progression? Can somebody please help him out? Lurker, Milo, Devon, come on. Help me out here, guys. Come on. It's on the tip of your tongue. Say it. Say it. I know you want to say it. Come on. I just want to hear you say it. Oh, okay. All right. I wanted you to be wrong so I could go, wrong! Let's see. Yeah, that's one of those things that's like, I call it like just stone walls around the brain. Like people just, whoa, that's the way it's always been done. So of course your tier will affect your growths. No, in fact, not only do tiers not affect growths in the first game, but we're actually homogenizing growths even more in the second game. So you don't have to think about, we do not want you doing this, right? Where you have to come on Discord and say, what class path is how do I manipulate my class path? We just want you to be like, okay, I've got my heavy infantry guys, I've got my archery guys, and then how they progress is based on what classes I need for this squad. Not what gamey bullshit can I do to manipulate their growths, and then have them be like, well, you should start as a this, and then move on to this, and then if you really want the best of this, then you should be this for tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3, and blah, 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 blah. I think that's just like one of those things where we don't like it so that you feel obligated to ask, hey, what's the manipulative, what's the gamey bullshit that I have to do for optimal stats? No. So in fact, For example, the strength gain on light infantry, heavy infantry, light cavalry, heavy cavalry, and archery in Symphony of War 2 is all the same. It's all the same. Every melee class has the same strength growth, and archery has the same strength growth. So you don't have to, like, do that bullshit that I already theatrically wrote about. Makes sense. Makes sense. And, of course, tier does not. That would be terrible. Like, oh, like you have to delay. Ooh, like you get better growth in tier 1, so delay it until you blah, 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 right? Or like you get worse growth in tier 1, so you have to promote as soon as possible, even if you don't want to, even if you don't know what to promote to, just promote to something, right? No. Challenge old assumptions. Challenge old game design. That is, what is my job? To design games, right? We've got any number of people who can program, make art, write music, draw, even like world build. But the game designer's job is to challenge assumptions and forge new paths and think of new, better ways to do things. If I just go in with stone walls around my brain and say, that's the way we've always done it, like, I'm not doing my job. I might as well be an AI at that point, right? So, yeah. Let me find out where we were in the chat. Joe Locke says 2016. Woot! It's releasing in the past. Oh, if only. That'd be awesome, right? So SOW2 will release around 2077. I probably said 2077 because I don't consider myself particularly having the gift of gab. I have a lot of ums and uhs, and so I probably said 2077. But Mikhail Setup says, will we have SOW2 before GTA 6? Isn't that one of those things where it's like before the heat death of the universe? So probably yes. Curse of the Vampire says, how do I manipulate my crossbows to have magic stat? You have them be mages, right? Because like we're gonna have probably different ways of fudging your stats, but it's not going to be class upgrade paths, right? Class upgrade path is just going to be, what class do you want to be now? Period. End of story, right? How do I manipulate, like Fire Emblem 3 houses, lol. Like buying dragons early, lol. LD Diamond says, it's your games, long time no talk. Haven't been able to catch you live in a while. Good to see you live. Good to see you as well. I'm glad that you are here. We're actually on week 2 of 5:30 Pacific time streaming, which is very exciting. Of course, it helps that we had a feature kind of get done this week, and which was this tile sets that we're looking at, so it's easy to justify. Sometimes there'll be nothing to talk about, right? Mikhail Setip says, I know some people really enjoy that kind of min-maxing, caring about max growth and shit. Personally, I feel super overwhelmed by that. So, yeah. Okay. I love what you said, because there's like, we want to do all the fudging. We want to do all the manipulating. But I think that type of manipulating is like, how do I get around the system? How do I skirt the system? How do I cheat the system, right? I'd rather you work within the rules of the system, so that it's like things are documented. What you do is going to have a predictable expected result, because that's satisfying. You expect A to happen, it happens. Yay, you love that, right? I love that, right? What's really frustrating is, oh, I guess I did the wrong class path, and I guess I should have asked the Discord. Oh, shoot, now I fucked myself because now the stats are all messed up. That's awful. Like, we do not like that. You always want to be able to, like, if there is something you want to fix, you should be able to fix it, or it shouldn't be broken in the first place, because why would you be punished for taking a certain class path, right? So that's kind of what we're going with this. I enjoyed the squad. Oh, yeah, I already talked about that one. Tobo says, this has probably been asked before, but will the story of 1 and 2 be directly connected? Will we see people in 2 refer to the events of 1, or will they be loosely connected, like, say, the Draken Nair universe? The answer is yes. This is actually a direct, not a direct sequel in that it's like, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, where it's like a direct, but it's in the same timeline, it's in the same game world, and the events of the first game will be referenced. That said, it's not a sequel to the point where you feel like you have to know about the first game in order to enjoy it. It's starting a new story, starting a completely new cast of characters, new story. But yes, it's going to feel very familiar to people who are familiar with the first game. So, good question. MD Yoma says, how do I manipulate Beatrix to be my wife? Well, you pretend that your avatar of the first game is you, name it yourself, and bond with Beatrix. And there you go. Mission accomplished. LD Diamond says, have you ever considered mod tools and the ability to create custom map scenarios with the in-game assets? Yes, we have considered it, and we would like it. Absolutely. Probably not doable in RPG Maker, so that's what we're trying to do with a different engine. Again, these are high-hanging fruit, long-term projects. Joel says, I'm fine without the complex manipulative stuff. It's just grindy. MD Lambert says, curious, the mine has sparkles showing. It's an area that requires attention, but the stables just seem to blend into the environment. Yes, good point. Yeah, it's kind of like Here's the Might and Magic, where like notable objectives always have some kind of animation to draw your attention to them. So, yeah, maybe I make the horsies walking around or something, right? First time chat from Mystic974. Give us a follow, please. Nothing wrong with a little bit of grind. Yeah, grind is fun. People like to grind, right? That's why we play RPGs and stuff. It just has to be like a certain type of grind. Like, if it's where you're unsure of the, like, am I going to be punished for this decision that I can't fix later? Like, that's something we don't want. Curse of Vampire says, so it's like Shining Force 2, where almost nothing's the same, and you would have to know Max's name to know it was even in the same world. It's, I mean, the geopolitics of the story of this game is directly related to the outcomes of the first game. That said, I mean, it's pretty related. It's just a completely new cast. Of course, there are going to be at least one cast member in this game that is directly related to, so they're descendant of the characters from 120 years ago in the first game. So enough time has passed that everybody from the first game has already aged out, right? So, the goal is it's a self-contained thing. Like, hey, do I have to buy the first game? I don't want to buy it. Then nope, you don't have to. We'd like to, but you don't have to. Safi Yuki says, hearing about you saying that this game won't be a direct sequel, however, I wonder if there will be some sort of cameos or DLC that'll bring those units into use for fun in some kind of post game. Yeah, that'd be awesome. We're not against it. Flavor wise for the campaign, continuity wise for the campaign, probably not, because I don't like to have that kind of suspension of disbelief broken by bringing in elements of like, oh, why is Barnabas here? He should be dead like 100 years ago, right? But like, custom game mode where you can like bring legacy characters in from the first game, absolutely. I love that idea. McCall Satip says, so it's like from Echoes of Etheria to Symphony of War 1. Don't need to know the history. If you know, it's cool. Exactly. That's a very good way to say it. Joe Lock 314 says, will it deal with the next threat referenced at the end of Symphony of War 1? Maybe. You'll have to see. Curse of Antfire, maybe make the stables have painted wood. Yeah, I don't think we're going to use... I mean, everything here is placeholder in terms of the... Except for the fort, which my bald head is covering now. Right? Hold on. This is actually a new fort graphic, because you can see it kind of fills in the tile better. So... That's the only one that's actually like done. And also, well, these are not objectives. This is just a townscape. That's also done. All right. All right. CID MD Yomi. Maybe for sure wouldn't want it to be a canon event or whatever. Yeah, just thinking their classes. Yeah. Easy Machiavelli says, "Is there something you hate in games that inspire you to make your own game?" Yeah, oh, it's a great, it's a great question. Absolutely. Um, a lot of games just, of course, there's the old assumptions like the tier-based growth, and just crusty old habits that game design gets into. But one of the big things that comes to mind right now is, oh hey, there's Mithrin, doggy, is Endgame is not handled very well by games where like you want you want to have your game where you just chill out and just zone out and get some dopamine. And Endgame is always so poorly done. I'm talking like 4X games, grand strategy games, and even RPGs where the formulas just get out of control. And it's kind of like, you need the numbers to make sense, right? You need the numbers to jive in a way that they cooperate with each other and you have an enjoyable experience that's both challenging and interesting. But if in late games, so often in these systems, the quantitative balance and the formulas just get out of what I think the developers pictured. So Mython and I talk about a lot about how to curtail that. Especially as you get into. There's that, but also Endgame just becomes a cleanup operation, right? Like, especially if you look at Ogre Battle 1, March of the Black Queen for Super Nintendo, you end up finishing your army, and then, like, that's the funnest part of Ogre Battle. I like the mid-game of Ogre Battle really a lot. Like, the early game is, like, kind of hard because you're dealing with the bullshit charisma alignment thing, but once you get that all kind of hashed out, and you get a little bit more development in your army, like the mid game is when you start to actually use those guys, and then you're going toward like the very powerful late game characters. To me, the later third of Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen is not very fun by comparison because you're not building your army anymore. You're mostly just cleaning up, right? So that's another end games thing that we like to kind of, which is why we added tier 4 classes to this game, and we're extending both vertically and horizontally and deeply whatever x-axis, y-axis, z-axis of how long and how much and in what ways you can customize your army, right? So, and of course, yeah, as D. Valdras just said, the Princess Lich Death Squad can just single-handedly kill everything, right? The Lich class in that game, I think someone forgot to carry the one. And made it way overpowered because like you can't, like it's like invulnerable to like everything, and it gets 3 all hitting attacks, and it's just ridiculous. So you just put like a lich. Even the princess isn't even necessary. Like, I guess you need the princess to kill the undead, so you do that, and then you put the lich princess together with one high flyer, and you just, that's it. If we're bringing character from the past, please bring Ingrid back. Yeah, Ingrid's cute, right? What class would she be? She'd have to be like a new, unique class, right? Is there actually a yellow, or is it a placeholder color instead of blue? That's not meant to actually be yellow. That's just the color of that guard tower. So the forts aren't going to be like whoever owns it. It's just a neutral objective. Is that confusing? Because there are going to actually be a yellow-colored faction if it's like neutral diplomatic status to you in this game, but let's see. Will there be any kind of ability to set activation spread by row? So having 2 rows of light infantry, but 1 row attacks before the other. So kind of like how Gunners did that. It's a good question. I think that might go a little bit too far into the micromanaging that like we don't want to put in. But we did talk about individual orders, so maybe that's a thing. But I think separating volleys like that might remain an aspect of firearms classes, but we'll have to see. Because, if you could just bypass the volley system with that sort of thing, then I think it kind of cheapens one of the most important aspects of the first game. Why the battle system is so fun and satisfying is because the volley system is part of it. So maybe. Carl Max says, what can you tell us about the tech tree in Symphony of War 2? Yeah. So not a lot, but conceptually speaking, we want to make it way, way bigger so that you have a longer period. In Symphony of War 1, I don't like the fact that it's just a checkbox because you can fill in the entire tree, which because you can't refund tech points in that game, that's the way it should be because you can't rectify a mistake, right? So you should be able to fill in the whole class tree. In this one, we want you to be able to freely refund tech points and reinvest them elsewhere at any point in the home base sequence. So therefore, it's a much larger tech tree. It's going to have small nodes that connect. So if anyone has played the horrifying, unfun mess of Diablo 4, at least they have this cool thing where there's this gigantic, huge tree where you have a lot of small nodes that connect to larger nodes. That's probably one of the best parts about that really bad game is that one thing. So like one strength, and then now you have a new ability, and then one strength, one hit point, one skill, and then another new ability. So a large kind of a matrix of things that you can unlock. And of course, we want to be able to just right click and go and refund it all. Either like refund everything in the whole tree and just get all your points back with one click, or right click on nodes that have been invested to like uninvest in just those nodes, just freely, right? But the caveat is that we don't want you to be able to fill in the entire tree. So we want you to have the uniqueness of being limited by not being able to fill in the entire tree because it's so huge and because there's not enough points to do so. But then you'll have the uniqueness that's your thing, that's your army, right? People ask, are you going to be able to make a player avatar? The player avatar is your army. Like, that's you, right? Everything that you do is even more you in this game than it is in the first game. Because not everyone's going to have... not everyone's going to have the same tree, right? Of course, there's going to be like D. Valroth in here is probably going to give everyone the optimal skill tree, endgame skill tree. This is what it should look like. Maybe not, but he'll come up with it and maybe we'll post it. But we want there to be like a lot of meaningful different choices that you can do with your skill tree, right? So, but that's the takeaway is can't fill the whole thing, can refund it at any time freely, as opposed to first game where you can fill it up but cannot refund it. I think it's more fun to do it the way we're going to do it in Symphony of War 2. So all points in Valkyries, right? So yeah, sure. If you'll be, if you want to just like go hard into one archetype, then that'll be one aspect of the skill tree is like I want like super good heavy cavalry. There you go. All right. To the expense of other things, but that's how it goes. Choices. Will there be difficult objectives like turn-based treasure items in Symphony of War 1? I like turn-based treasure items, man. I know people complain to me about it a lot, but that's one of those things where if you didn't have time pressure, then it would cheapen a lot of the things that we've designed, right? There should be some time pressure. Maybe we can ease up on the time pressure just a little bit, but like it completely changes the meta. If you're just able to turtle forever and just like, there should be some incentive to keep moving, right? First name chat from G Day Master. Will there be more unique versions of legendary units often found in bazaars? Absolutely, yes. Yes. We want to make that even cooler, right? Moving back a little bit, will there be a battle in Napoleonic Proportions that hopefully doesn't have the enemy turn take forever? I would say that chapter 26 in the first game was of Napoleonic Proportions. That is a monstrously huge chapter. I don't know if we're going to do something that big. Maybe that is like the limit of how big it can be. But of course, there's also the possibility that maybe we can speed up enemy battle resolution. I don't know how, but that'd be nice. Yellow isn't confusing now. They look at it in neutral since the green maybe more session. Gotcha. Huge skill tree is actually copied from Path of Exile. Oh yeah, I know. I just like Path of Exile's skill tree is like kind of confusing for people, right? We want it to be more digestible, like in Diablo, right? So, Castea says, "Are you planning multiple routes like Tactics Ogre games? Not in this game." At first, like the base, like I explained in the last dev stream, you'll have the main chapters, and then a lot more side chapters in this that actually like evolve in different directions and unlock more side chapters. So the side chapter aspect of this is way expanded. There's a bigger, more interesting cast, and we want to explore their backstories and their special roles in the campaign. So, and then we're gonna have more grindy stuff too. So, I'm gonna wrap up here in a couple minutes. Let's see. Multiple playthroughs, trying different strategies. Yes, of course. LD Diamond says, any plans for early access? I guess early access is one of the few things that's not super scummy because you're being honest about it. Like, about all the scummy things that game developers are doing these days, I think that's the least. That said, we didn't do that for the first game. I'm not sure. I think that'll depend on the multiple stakeholders that we're working with, including us, what we want to do. If we want to do anything but just the normal like closed beta, full release, right? Maybe. I have 0% progress on thinking about that right now. So, but a good question. D-Lar says, yeah, I think the timer is the most important things in the game. Yes. Time treasure is awesome. Yes. I don't like time loot, but I can understand its uses. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I already babbled about this enough. Like it's you think you don't like it, but the fact that it's there makes it more fun. It's one of those frustrations that you can put up with, right? So, Sin the Great says, as long as the time pressure doesn't disproportionately force you to focus on units with high mobility, and yes, absolutely, yeah. That's kind of like a Fire Emblem 4, which does that, which kind of forces you to focus on cavalry for everything because the maps are way too big. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it helps to have those units, but we don't want to force it. We want you to be able to bring in a bunch of turtles and artillery that have lower movement and still be able to hit all of the time objectives, so long as you're doing it smartly, right? You should be able to build your squads well, use them well, but you don't have to use all cavalry and flyers to do it. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. G-Day Master says, nice. I often enjoy unique side or optional characters. One of the reasons I love is the basic unit can become an unspoken hero. Absolutely. That's so important. So important. In fact, actually, that's going to be, I think, more so. We have story characters and more of them in this game, but if you look at the stat modifiers that they have and the traits they have, they're like 10% better than a generic for the most part. Of course, you do have specific heroes that are standouts, like because the story demands it, right? This person is super special. There are standouts, but and then there also is something to be said for having a unit like Orlando that will help a weak army get through this part of the game, right? So, but for the most part, yeah, that's one of the most important parts of the Symphony of War game design is that Bob from Melmond, the nobody, can become your greatest hero, right? So that's absolutely what we want, and we want to do that even harder, right? Michael says, will the tech tree appear more faction-specific or stick to general magic physical utility divisions? That's a great question, and I can't really answer it that well right now. Probably both faction-based and, different archetype-based and different tactics-based. Some work on stats, some work on abilities, some work on economy, blah, 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 right? I thought early access used to mean beta testing. Oh, yeah. Early access, like paid early access, like where you sell it, but it's not done. It's like, oh, that's whatever. But sometimes that actually works out very well for everybody, so I don't want to poo-poo it too hard. But like I said, we're 0% on like progress on thinking about that stuff. We're a ways off. Jolog says, how many new unit types are you looking to include, roughly? I can tell you exactly that we are, let's see, we have 140 unit classes in the game. New unit types, I would say probably like 50, so a lot. Let's see. But that's fundamental to the game design is that classes do one thing and then they do it well, or sometimes they do two things, but most of the time they do one thing. I mean, there's already a lot in the first game. There's like probably 60 generic classes. So I can't remember. No, 50-ish, right? So, that leaves like the tier 4 editions, then the large beast editions that we're adding, and then the non-human races, And then, of course, the unique classes plus the enemy-only classes. Yeah, it's around 140 total. Accessible, they're not all accessible, but like a lot of them are. So, the Curse of Antfire says Falsebound Kingdom basically forces slapping in flying monsters for that one. Oh yeah, we don't want to do that. That's what I'm talking about because lately early access is like 3 days early. Oh no, we don't want to do that. Where it's like you can play for pay us $10 more than you normally would to play 3 days early. How scummy is that, man? Kitten Paw, will you introduce weather or time of day mechanics? Well, in the first game, we do have weather and time of day mechanics. However, they're not very impactful. What I want to do with that is maybe this will end up being the way it is, that the weather or time of day stays the same throughout the entire chapter. Maybe that'll be the way it is. I'm not sure. Just because it was so unimpactful in the first game, like with the exception of like heat wave. You came across a heat wave, you're like, holy shit, my morale is in the toilet. But other than that, it was like didn't really care about it, including day-night cycles. So I think if a chapter is entirely during the night, that makes it more interesting. Or a chapter is entirely during the day. A chapter is entirely in a blizzard. So you kind of have that like one scenario condition that's consistent. That I think sounds more fun. Okay, it's getting pretty late here. I'm gonna do I'm gonna pause the chat and answer the current questions. So, any VO plans? Oh, wait a minute. Will you? Would the MC Lindley be able to reclass into different roles, like put in before? So if there's, well, we're not gonna have a MC like Lindley and like Devoa. So that's why I'm saying the customization is your army, not your player avatar, right? Jolock314 says, any plans for voiceovers in the same time? Yeah, Jolock, watch the stream that I did last week. I bitched about VO for like half an hour. The main dialogue is all voiced in this game, so, and it's like a why do I hate myself type of project. It's so much work you wouldn't even believe it, and it's very expensive, right? Aldi Diamond says, will there be rare items to make rare classes? Yes. That's unlock. Every tier 4 has a class unlock item. Okay, speed run this first game. Blah, blah, blah. Mounted cat mages. Mikhail's at 40. Blah, blah, blah. Wish I could edit my comment. Sometimes I meant MC and SOW2. Like, oh, okay. No, we're not gonna have something like that. But you're not gonna miss it. You're not gonna care. Don't worry about it. Yep. So, first time chat from Sender. It's not Sender, it's Sender with an H. Sender. Any inspirations, things you'd like to add from Unicorn Overlord AI tuning? Absolutely. Learning from the competition is very important. That said, I haven't played it yet, so hang out with us in Discord and on streams and tell us what you'd like us to learn. Like what AI tuning is and how you'd like us to learn from AI tuning and how that would apply to our game. Absolutely. All right, we're about an hour, a little past an hour here. Follow, hold on. Let me get my YouTube channel. YouTube, Dancing Dragon Games. Boy, did I not type that well. I want... Here, follow that channel, please, because I might move to YouTube. Follow the Twitch, follow the YouTube. Stay in our Discord. If you're in Discord, do the React roll. I'll link that again here in the chat. Do the React roll for Twitch so that you can get pinged when I go live. And stay cool, stay safe. Hope everyone's doing very well. And we will maybe see you next week. If not, 2 weeks. I want to keep these Sunday streams going. Thank you so much. We love you all and have a wonderful rest of your evening.